In the bustling city that never truly sleeps, every moment on the streets buzzed with an unspoken urgency, as if the very heart of the city was kept beating by the restless movements of its inhabitants. On this particular afternoon, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched across the concrete jungle. Jacob, a lanky 16-year-old with a mop of unruly blonde hair, shuffled onto the bus, his backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. He took a seat near the back, pulling out a pair of worn-out headphones and settling into his own world of music and mellow guitar solos. The bus, a vibrant microcosm of the city itself, was filled with the usual suspects: weary office workers, gossiping teenagers, and tired mothers trying to soothe their children. At the next stop, an elderly black woman boarded the bus. She moved slowly, each step measured and deliberate, her hands clutching tightly at the handle of a worn tote bag. The bus was unusually crowded, and as she looked around for a seat, her eyes briefly met Jacob's. He saw the faintest hint of resignation in her gaze as she steadied herself against a pole. Jacob's hand paused over his phone. The music still played in his ears, but its presence faded into the background as he watched the woman. Despite the open seats near him, no one made a move to accommodate her. It wasn't out of malice, perhaps, just the collective self-absorption of a city too busy to notice. With a sigh that he barely heard over the music, Jacob stood up, motioning to the woman. "Here, you can have my seat," he said, louder than he intended, the words cutting through the hum of conversations and the rumble of the engine. The woman looked up, surprise registering on her face. "Oh, thank you, young man. That's very kind of you," she said, her voice rich with a warmth that seemed to echo from a different era. She settled into the seat, and Jacob nodded, leaning against the nearby pole. The act, simple in its execution, drew little attention from the other passengers, but it felt significant to Jacob. It was a small rebellion against the indifference that the city sometimes bred in its dwellers. The bus journey continued, stops coming and going like the rhythmic beating of a drum. Jacob's stop was approaching, and as he prepared to get off, he felt a tap on his shoulder. It was the woman he had given his seat to. She handed him a small, crumpled piece of paper. "Thank you again, young man. I believe in rewarding good deeds. Check this when you're home," she said, her eyes twinkling with a mischievous light that belied her age. Jacob, puzzled but intrigued, pocketed the note without looking at it. He nodded to the woman, then hopped off the bus, the cool evening air a stark contrast to the warmth inside. As he walked the few blocks to his home, his curiosity piqued. He pulled out the paper, unfolding it carefully. Scrawled in neat cursive was an address and a time with a simple message: "Meet me here tomorrow. It's worth your while." Jacob stared at the note, a mix of confusion and excitement churning within him. What could possibly await him at that address? And why him? As he turned the corner onto his street, the headlights of a sleek Mercedes caught his eye. It slowed as it approached his house, then drove past. He couldn't help but wonder, with a laugh at his own fanciful thoughts, if his act of kindness on the bus had somehow summoned this mysterious sequence of events. Little did he know, the true adventure was just beginning. The night was restless for Jacob. He tossed and turned, his mind replaying the day's events: the elderly woman, the note, and the unexpected sight of the Mercedes. By morning, the shadows of doubt had been mostly swept away by a tide of curiosity and a hint of excitement. Today, he thought, could be the start of something new, something entirely unexpected. After a quick breakfast, Jacob slipped the note into his pocket and left the house. The address led him to one of the more affluent areas of the city, where the buildings wore their age with an air of dignified grace, and the trees lining the streets seemed to whisper stories of decades past. As he approached the specified location, he saw that it was a small, discreet art gallery, nestled between a high-end coffee shop and an antiquarian bookstore. Stepping inside, Jacob was immediately enveloped in a quiet world of color and light. The walls were adorned with vibrant paintings, each piece a burst of emotion captured on canvas. He was momentarily distracted by the art, feeling as though he was stepping through different worlds with each painting he admired. "Jacob?" A voice sliced through his reverie. He turned to see a middle-aged black woman dressed in an elegant suit, her hair styled immaculately. Her presence commanded the room, yet her smile was warm and inviting. "Yes, I'm Jacob. Are you—" He trailed off, not sure if this was the same woman from the bus. "I'm Lillian. I'm glad you could come. Follow me, please," she said, leading him to a private room at the back of the gallery. Once inside, she gestured for him to sit at a small table set with tea and pastries. "You're probably wondering why you're here," Lillian began, pouring tea into two delicate china cups. "Yesterday, you showed kindness without expectation of reward. Such qualities are rare and should be nurtured." Jacob listened, puzzled but attentive. "I own this gallery and I'm involved in various philanthropic activities. I'm always on the lookout for young people who show potential not just in talent but in character. Your small act of kindness spoke volumes," Lillian explained, her eyes assessing his reaction. "So what exactly are you proposing?" Jacob asked, the reality of the situation finally settling in. "I'd like to offer you an internship here at the gallery. It includes a scholarship for any art or management courses you might want to take. I believe everyone deserves a chance to shine, and I'd like to give you that chance," Lillian offered, her voice imbued with a sincerity that was almost palpable. Jacob was stunned. Art had always been a hobby, a private passion, but he had never considered it could be more. Now, presented with this opportunity, he felt the edges of his world expanding. I don't know what to say," Jacob stuttered, his initial surprise giving way to a dawning excitement. "Say you'll think about it. There's no rush. We want this to be a decision you're comfortable with," Lillian advised, sipping her tea. Jacob nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. As the conversation turned to details about the internship, the gallery, and what he could expect, Jacob felt a profound sense of gratitude. He realized that sometimes it's the smallest acts that can lead to the biggest changes in one's life. As he left the gallery, the note now tucked away as a precious memento, he couldn't help but feel that this was the beginning of something truly significant. The Mercedes from the previous evening flashed through his mind once again, and he smiled, understanding now that sometimes life's most meaningful rewards come from the most unexpected places. Jacob's decision to accept the internship and scholarship came after a night of long conversations with his family and deep personal reflection. The possibility of integrating his love for art into a professional pathway was thrilling, a door opening to a world he had only ever admired from a distance. On his first day at the gallery, Jacob arrived early, his nerves buzzing with anticipation. The building seemed different in the daylight, more welcoming, its large windows bathing the interior in soft morning light. Lillian greeted him with a warm smile, introducing him to the staff, a small, dedicated team that ran the gallery like a well-oiled machine. "Your first task," Lillian explained, "is to get familiar with our current exhibitions. You need to know the stories behind the art and the artists. People don't just come here to look at paintings, they come to understand and feel them." As Jacob walked through the gallery, taking in each piece of art, he began to understand what Lillian meant. Each painting, sculpture, and installation told its own story, sometimes of joy, sometimes of struggle, but always of deep human experience. He learned about the artists, their inspirations, and how they hoped their work would touch others. Within a few weeks, Jacob had become an integral part of the gallery team. He assisted in setting up new exhibitions, guided tours, and even began contributing to their social media pages, sharing stories about the art and upcoming events. The more he learned, the more he realized how much there was to know, and his appetite for this knowledge grew exponentially. One afternoon, while preparing materials for an upcoming exhibit on urban landscapes, Jacob stumbled upon a series of photographs that captivated him. They were taken by a relatively unknown local photographer, depicting the city through a lens of stark, raw beauty. The images showed corners of the city that most would pass without a glance, but through the photographer's eye, they spoke of the life and heartbeat of the urban landscape. Intrigued, Jacob proposed featuring the photographer in the next exhibition cycle. Lillian listened attentively as he explained his idea, his enthusiasm evident. "This is exactly why I brought you here, Jacob. You're not just seeing the art, you're seeing the potential," Lillian remarked, her eyes reflecting pride. "Let's arrange a meeting with the photographer." The exhibition turned out to be a remarkable success. It drew a diverse crowd, sparking conversations about urban life, decay, and beauty. Jacob felt a surge of pride during the opening night, seeing visitors engage with the art, discussing it passionately. As the gallery closed for the night, Jacob stood by the entrance, looking out at the city with a new perspective. The streets, the people, the chaotic blend of sounds and colors, all seemed like a vast canvas, alive and pulsing with stories waiting to be told. In this new chapter of his life, Jacob had found his calling. He wasn't just witnessing art, He was part of its very creation, its introduction to the world, and its impact on the community. He realized that each day offered a new opportunity to make a difference, to shine a light on unseen beauty, and to change perspectives. This realization wasn't just about his future. It was about contributing to the larger narrative of the city and its people, one exhibition at a time.